Hi team, I hope you're having a good day and you're ready for another APES screencast. In this screencast, we're going to cover sections 18.3, 18.4, and 18.5. In section 18.3, we'll talk about acid deposition and why it's a problem. Acid deposition is a serious regional air pollution problem. Acid deposition is a broad term for acid rain and any other form of precipitation that contains acidic compounds like sulfuric acid and nitric acid. There are two types of acid deposition. There's wet deposition that comes down as rain, snow, fog, and cloud vapor, and there's dry deposition. In dry deposition, the acid compounds react to form sulfur dioxide gas and crystalline salt particles. The substances produced by acid deposition can stay in the atmosphere anywhere from 2 to 14 days. The photo here shows the effects of acid rain on the face of a gargoyle at the top of a building. This diagram outlines how acid deposition occurs. It always starts with exhaust from automobiles or smoke from industry and power plants. They produce nitric oxide that becomes nitric acid and sulfur dioxide that becomes sulfuric acid. Nitric acid and sulfuric acid are the basis of acid deposition. This map of the world shows where acid rain is a problem in red and where it can potentially become a problem in yellow and green. Acid deposition has a number of harmful effects. First, it can affect human health. The sulfur dioxide gas produced by dry deposition can encourage and aggravate chronic respiratory disorders like asthma and bronchitis. Acid rain can cause toxins to build up in fish. When we eat the fish, the toxins make their way from the fish to us. Acid deposition can also affect aquatic ecosystems. Acid rain can leach toxic heavy metals like aluminum, lead, and mercury into lakes and other bodies of water from the surrounding soil. These toxic heavy metals can bioaccumulate and biomagnify in the organisms that live there. Finally, acid deposition can lower pH of aquatic ecosystems. Many organisms are sensitive to pH and can't survive when pH changes significantly. Acid deposition can also leach nutrients from soil, making farming and agriculture less productive. It can also cause damage to forest when changes in pH affect the health of the trees there. And finally, acid deposition can cause damage to buildings and other structures that are made of materials that can be corroded by acidic compounds. This diagram shows how acid deposition can cause leaching. Here, acid rain is reacting with minerals in the soil, releasing metals and other compounds into the nearby lake. This table summarizes how acid deposition can be prevented and controlled. Prevention revolves around reducing fossil fuel use. Cleanup revolves around neutralizing acidic compounds produced by acid deposition. In section 18.4, we'll talk about major indoor air pollution problems. Indoor air pollution is a serious problem both in developing countries and developed countries. In developing countries, the problem comes from using wood, charcoal, dung, crop residues, and coal as a source of heat and energy. When these things burn, they produce smoke, and the smoke can have negative health effects. Low-income populations in these countries are more likely to use these fuels and have inadequate ventilation, and as a result are at greater risk of these negative health effects. In developed countries, indoor air pollution is often worse than outdoor air pollution. This is because of chemical products that are used inside and because of chemicals that are used in building materials. This diagram shows many of the toxic chemicals that can be found in a normal household and the health effects that they each cause. Some people are at greater risk from the health problems associated with indoor air pollution. These include young children and the elderly, people who are sick or pregnant, people who have respiratory disorders or heart problems, smokers, and factory workers. In more developed countries, the four most dangerous indoor air pollutants are tobacco smoke from cigarettes, formaldehyde from furniture and flooring, radioactive radon-222 gas, which we'll talk about later, and very small ultrafine particles. Other indoor air pollutants we should be concerned about include pesticide residues, lead particles, and airborne spores from molds and mildews. The infographic here provides information about black mold, including the symptoms you would experience if you were exposed to it. This image summarizes many common indoor air problems and indoor air pollutants. In some areas more than others, radioactive radon-222 gas is a dangerous indoor air pollutant. Radioactive radon gas is produced by the natural radioactive decay of uranium-238 in the ground. Radon is a gas that can be inhaled. Once in the lungs, it can decay into polonium-210. This can expose the lungs and the human body to high levels of radiation. The diagram here shows how radon makes its way into a house. The photo on the right shows a device you can buy to measure radon levels in your house. This diagram shows how radon-222 gas can be produced from uranium-238. It also shows how the radon can get into a building through cracks in the foundation and how it can be removed through proper ventilation. In section 18.5, we'll talk more about the health effects of air pollution. Our bodies have natural defenses against air pollution. Our respiratory systems protect us with hair, microscopic hairs called cilia, and mucus, which most people just call snot. Smoking and prolonged exposure to air pollution can wear down our defenses and cause conditions like chronic bronchitis, which is an inflammation within the lungs, and emphysema, which is damage to the air sacs within the lungs. This diagram shows how the respiratory system is structured. It also shows how cilia and mucus are present within our respiratory system and how the air sacs called alveoli are structured. It's these air sacs that can be damaged by emphysema. Cilia are microscopic hairs that line the respiratory system. The photo on the left shows what normal cilia look like. The photo on the right shows what cilia look like in a smoker. This diagram shows how chronic bronchitis and emphysema affect healthy lungs. Air pollution is a contributing factor in the deaths of 3.2 million people in the world each year. Most of these deaths are in Asia, with about 1.2 million of them in China. It's estimated that 150,000 to 350,000 deaths in the United States have some connection to air pollution. One major source of air pollution in the United States are diesel-powered vehicles. Diesel fumes are thought to be responsible for about 125,000 deaths in the United States each year. The emissions from one diesel-powered truck produce the same air pollution as 150 cars. That's why the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has proposed stricter emission standards for diesel-powered vehicles. This map shows the number of premature deaths from air pollution in the United States. You can see it varies region by region. Most of this has to do with the amount of industry and dependence on coal.